One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
All right, everybody. Got to have a bunch of stuff for you today, but we're going to go right to the event right now. JD Vance will be taking the stage soon. Looks like Kelly Loeffler is on stage right now. Whole bunch of news for you today, but we got JD Vance and looks like Kelly Loeffler to start the day.
To join him and all of you out on the road again. This is my second trip here this week and the third in the last year. I was actually here in your great state earlier this week with 900 small business manufacturers that are working to hire and grow right here in this great state. And that is thanks to President Trump's fair trade, low tax, low regulation agenda that is driving job growth in this country and in this state. And it's great news, but I hear it in every single state I travel across in this wonderful nation of ours. I've been in 15 states this year already, and that's what I hear from state to state to state. Now, yesterday, I was in Pennsylvania, actually this morning too, and I heard from a restaurant owner who said things are already so much better. But under Joe Biden, his costs increased $4,000 every single week under Joe Biden. Now under President Trump, he's able to start to grow and invest and hire in his business again, thanks to President Trump's tax cuts. And the common thread is this. The last 4 years of reckless Bidenomics crushed you, hardworking families. But today, the comeback is real. It's unfolding on main streets across America in households and communities just like this great one. But for the last year, the Trump administration and our Republican partners in Congress have focused on just that one thing, putting American families and workers first again. Let's hear it for our hard-working Americans. That's right. Now, since day one, President Trump, Vice President Vance, and this cabinet has worked tirelessly for you with urgency, with resolve, and without apology. We are going to make America great again because we're reversing 4 long years of Democrat policies that hurt you and your family. Now, we're bringing back the nation that we knew, where freedom and grit, not the government, created generational opportunity. And President Trump said it best when he said, "The great betrayal is over, and hardworking Americans will never be forgotten about again." We're working every single day to restore greatness in this nation for the next 250 years. Together, we're cleaning up massive wasteful spending and the abuse of government programs, and you've seen that. The fraud that sent your hard-earned tax dollars overseas. And the Democrats' open borders, defund the police agendas that invited violent crime into what should be safe communities, taking the lives of innocent victims like Irina Zarutska. After 4 disastrous years, that turnaround is well underway. And yes, there is much more work to do, but we're making fast progress for you. We've cut Biden's massive inflation and high interest rates to 5-year lows. We're eliminating trillions of dollars of bureaucratic red tape that crushed our job creators. And we're restoring drill, baby, drill to make us energy dominant again. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say clean, beautiful coal. So we are bringing back Made in America. That's what made us a great nation of builders. It's going to make us a great nation of builders again. Now, the mainstream media and the liberal elites said that it couldn't be done, that we should just simply manage America's decline. Well, they were dead wrong, because all we needed was a new president. Now, just, you know what the working family tax cuts mean. You know that it's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. It's thousands of dollars back in your pocket this year and for years to come. It's expanded child tax credits, expanded health savings account, $1,000 Trump accounts for children. It's the 20% pass-through deduction for small businesses. It's the immediate expensing that is rocket fuel for Main Street. And in fact, this is the most Main Street bill in American history. But yet, every single Democrat in Congress voted against it, which means when you get your tax refunds this year, you will not be thanking Don Davis, but you can thank President Trump, Vice President Vance, and congressional Republicans for that. So now, look. President Trump and Vice President Vance, they didn't break it, but they're trying to fix it, and they're working quickly, and they're fighting for you. Not for Green New Deal radicals, not for illegal aliens, not for big government spending or fraudsters stealing your tax dollars, but for workers, for veterans, for hardworking families like yours who make our nation strong. We are working every day to make this country great again. Now, my friends, we are on the cusp of America's golden age, and certainly the best is yet to come. But none of this would have been possible without the incredible leadership of President Trump and Vice President Vance. And you all know our great Vice President's story, his humble beginnings. He's a man of deep faith, the father of soon-to-be 4 with his beautiful wife and Second Lady, Usha Vance. You know, something important to know about our Vice President, he was the deciding vote on the One Big Beautiful Bill. He single-handedly stopped Democrats from driving your tax bill through the roof and preventing a $4 trillion tax hike. And now he's leading a sweeping effort to end massive fraud and prosecute criminals who are stealing your tax dollars. He's a man who, above all, fights unapologetically for American values. He and President Trump do it all for the hardworking men and women of our nation who make this nation exceptional. And it's why he's back here in the great state of North Carolina, standing proudly with you to restore the American dream. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce the 50th Vice President of the United States, JD Vance.
I always come out to that music, which these people here don't like the music. So as soon as he steps up to the microphone, we will cut right back and we'll listen to JD Vance. So we got JD Vance, and then we're going to have Pete Hegseth, and then I got a whole bunch of news for you.
Thank y'all. Please take a seat, and we've got some time to spend with one another. So I want to first thank a few of the great people who are here who make this possible and are leading, I think, helping us lead America's and North Carolina's comeback. So first of all, to our great Senate candidate here in the state of North Carolina, Michael Whatley. Thank you, Michael, for everything that you're doing. For our great congressional candidate in this district, Lori Buckout. Where are you, Lori? Thank you so much. It's good to see you. An officer in our military and now a person who wants to serve this great district and actually do something good for the people of this district instead of just voting with Nancy Pelosi, which is exactly what Don Davis does every single day. He's in Washington, D.C. So, Lori, thank you. We're going to talk a little bit more about your race here in a second, but a lot of you know that this state has a very special place in my heart because I grew up in a poor family. I was raised by my grandmother, and then when I graduated from high school back in 2003, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and I really spent the first 4 years of my adulthood not too far from here in the eastern part of our state, becoming a young Marine and frankly becoming a young man. And I'll never forget one of the first major purchases I ever made in my entire life was when I wanted to buy, for the first time, I wanted to buy my own car as a young Marine. I was probably 19 years old. And I go to one of these off-base used car dealerships, and I find a Honda Civic. It's practical, it's cheap, it does everything I need it to do. And I'm gonna get the dealer's low interest rate financing of 21%. And by the grace of God, I had a great United States Marine Corps gunnery sergeant, Gunny Arledge. I went back, I said, Gunny, I got a great news for you. He said, what? He said, I'm gonna buy my first car. He said, congratulations, Marine, that's a big step for a young Marine. He said, what's your interest rate? I said, 21%. And he nearly smacked me upside the head. And he said, stop being an idiot. And he didn't say that, he used more colorful language, but I said, we have a couple of young people out there. He said, go to Navy Federal Credit Union, and I got an 8% interest rate and bought my car without breaking the bank. So that was one of many lessons the state of North Carolina taught me. But what we're trying to do, I talk about the difference between a 21% interest rate that the used car dealer offered me and the 8% interest rate that I got offered at a credit union, and that's pretty much the difference between the Joe Biden and Donald Trump economic plan for the United States of America, because in just a very brief time, we've seen new home purchases rise to their highest level in 5 years since the last time Donald Trump was president. We've seen the cost of rents drop for 6 months in a row. We've seen the average tax refund that's going to come to the people of North Carolina about $3,700 per family, and we see interest rates that are the lowest they've been since the last time that Donald J. Trump was president. My friends, the president is impatient. He's the most impatient person I have ever met, in fact. He constantly is pressing on the gas. He wants us to do more, but I stand here proud to say that after the first year of President Donald Trump and congressional Republicans' leadership, we are rebuilding the American dream and we are taking back this country for the people of this state. Now, there are a number of things that I'm proud of, a number of things I want to brag on, but I actually want to take a little bit of an audience poll because I was looking at some of the things that we put in the working families tax cut, this one big, great, big, beautiful bill. Now, that bill is over 1,100 pages long, and unlike most of these bills that are way too long, this is chock full of good stuff for the people of this district, the people of this state. But there are a few things in particular that I think are important for this state. Number one, that piece of legislation, the working families tax cuts, had the biggest tax cut for Social Security benefits that we've ever seen in the United States of America. Number two, it wasn't just Social Security recipients. Number two, that legislation had the biggest tax cut for people making under $100,000 that we have ever seen in tax legislation in this country. And number three, that wasn't in the working families tax cut, but one of the things I'm very proud of is that we forced all localities, whether they're red states or blue states, to report crime accurately so we could go to war against violent crime and the criminals who do that violent crime. Now those are three things, and on this part, I only want you to clap once, because again, I'm going to take an audience poll here. I'm going to ask you what your favorite of those three pieces of legislation, those three accomplishments are that we've had so far in the Trump administration. So, if your favorite thing of those three is no taxes on Social Security, let me hear it. Okay? If your favorite thing is the biggest tax cuts for people making under 100K, let me hear that. Okay? And if your favorite thing is that we've gone to war against violent criminals, let me hear that. Okay. Now, I said only applaud once, and there's a guy up here. He applauded at least twice. He cheated the system, but I guess he wanted to save his applause till the very end. But we all heard the response. You know who did not clap for a single one of those great accomplishments of the Trump administration? Don Davis, because he voted against every single one of them. Don Davis voted against cutting taxes on Social Security. Don Davis voted against cutting taxes on those making under $100,000 a year, and Don Davis voted against going to war against violent criminals. Don Davis is not a man who stands for the people of this state or this district. He is a person who does exactly what Nancy Pelosi tells him to do, and in November, we're going to send him home and get him out of Washington, D.C. Now, the crazy thing, y'all, about a guy like Don Davis is, sometimes you meet a Democrat in a red district, and, I don't agree with him on everything. Of course, Democrats and Republicans disagree on politics from time to time, but you at least have some people out there, or maybe you used to, who would vote their conscience or vote the interests of their district. What makes Don so unusual is that we are in a common sense district here in the state of North Carolina, and this guy still votes every single time with Nancy Pelosi. In fact, I asked my team, I said, find a major piece of legislation, find something easy where Don Davis could vote against the Democrats and vote with his district, the moderates, the independents, even the conservative Democrats. Find me one example where this guy defied the leadership of his own party. He has never done that on any major issue that we could find. And here's just a layup, Don, an easy layup that we gave you. Frankly, it would have been bad for poor Lori's campaign chances, but he couldn't even take the bait on the Save America Act. Now, if you know anything about this legislation, what the Save America Act does is that it makes it impossible for illegal aliens to vote in our elections. Pretty common sense. Now, I think that's pretty easy, right? We don't want illegal aliens voting in our elections. My favorite thing is whenever I bring this up, you'll have some Democrat on TV who will say, well, we don't have to worry about that because illegal immigrants voting in our elections is very rare. Well, number one, how about we put it to zero, okay? Even if you're right. Number two, you're not right. It happens way more often than a lot of people appreciate. In fact, just this week, ICE arrested an illegal immigrant. I'm going to read this because I want to make sure I get it right. An illegal immigrant from Mauritania who's voted in 7 federal elections since 2008. And I have it on good authority that in every single election he voted for Don Davis. No, I don't know about that. I don't know where he voted, but I guarantee it wasn't for us. Okay, it wasn't for America First policies. Now, here's the thing though, even if you take the Democrats at their word, even if illegal aliens voting is very rare, then why don't we ban it anyway? It's not that complicated. It is one thing to say, I don't get it. The Democrats say, this never happens, or it happens only very rarely on the one hand, and on the other hand, we must not stop it. It doesn't make a damn bit of sense. We need to get all illegal aliens stopping from voting in our elections. It's very common sense stuff. But even on that, Don Davis could not be persuaded to vote for the people of this district. That's like an 85% issue. You look at the majority of even Democrats across our country, a solid majority of Democrats want to pass the Save America Act, but not the guy who allegedly represents the state of North Carolina, who represents this district. So you got to kind of ask yourself, if you got a guy who votes against tax cuts for Social Security, if Don Davis votes against tax cuts for people making under $100,000 a year, if Don Davis votes against going to war against criminal, illegal aliens, and violent criminals, then Don Davis doesn't really represent you. Let's vote for Lori, a person who will, and will do so proudly. Now, I want to say a couple other things because I've given Don Davis a lot of attention here, and now I'm going to go on to Roy Cooper. So first of all, on every single thing, now Roy wasn't in Washington, D.C., but on every single one of these critical wins for the Trump administration to have gotten for the people of this district, the people of this state, Roy Cooper would have voted against all that. That's reason number one, we can't send a guy to the Senate. We want a senator who represents you. We want a senator who doesn't represent illegal aliens and fraud, but who represents hard work and the good people of the state of North Carolina. And because we want those things, we need Michael Whatley in the United States Senate, not Roy Cooper. Michael. Now, he stood up and clapped for that. It would have been a bad sign if he wouldn't have stood up and clapped for that, but he passed the test there. So here's the thing about Roy Cooper, okay? So there's been a lot of debate about what exactly our foreign policy should be with regards to Russia and Ukraine. The President of the United States has been very clear. He wants the killing to stop. He wants to get back to commerce. He wants to stop the innocent people who are losing their lives in that conflict. I happen to admire that. Of course, I'm biased, but I think that's the right idea. Now, here's the crazy thing, though, about Roy Cooper. Roy Cooper is one of these people who clearly cares way more for foreign countries than he does the United States of America. You see the passion in his voice when he talks about protecting illegal aliens. You'll never hear that passion when he's talking about the people in this room. You hear the passion in his voice when he talks about sending hundreds of billions of dollars to the war in Ukraine. And yet, the one Ukrainian Roy Cooper didn't care about was this innocent girl, Irina, who had her throat slashed by a person who should have never been on the streets of this country to begin with. So ask yourself, why did he spend his entire career making it hard to lock up violent criminals? Why did he spend his entire career going after our brave police officers who are trying to keep our streets safe? Why does he care so much about the war in Ukraine 6,000 miles away, but doesn't give a damn about an innocent Ukrainian girl who lost her life in our backyard because he wouldn't do his job? And the simple fact is that Roy Cooper doesn't stand for you. He doesn't fight for you. He will never fight for you, but Michael Whatley will. He better, but he will. I know he will. He's a good man. I know he will. Let me just say a couple of final things because I want to brag on the president. I want to brag on what we've been able to accomplish in Washington. First of all, we under the Biden administration, we dug ourselves a hole in this country. We got to be honest about that fact. The average American family under Joe Biden's leadership lost about $3,300 in take-home pay. Now, that was a combination of higher taxes, but also that terrible inflation crisis that we had when Joe Biden was president. When Joe Biden was president, not a single month did we see inflation as low as it was last month and the month before under Donald Trump's leadership. That's something big to brag on. That's something big to celebrate. Because what that means is that you and your families can afford to live a better life. When Joe Biden was spending all that money on green new scams, when he was driving up the cost of everything, he was making it hard for you and your families to get by in this beautiful country that all of us love. So I happen to think it's a pretty nice thing that we've got a president of the United States that is not fighting to give away hundreds of billions of dollars to green energy scams, but is fighting to keep the American people's money in the American people's pocket, because that's exactly where it belongs. But what we've seen in about, a year and a month, I guess, of President Trump's leadership is that the average American family, while they lost $3,200 when Biden was president, they've gained about $1,300 while Donald Trump was president. Now, that's dollars and cents. Now, there's a good news and a bad news to that. The good news is that means you're $1,300 richer than you were about a year ago. That's what we're fighting for. That's what we care the most about, is your prosperity. The bad news is we are still going to dig ourselves out of that hole that Joe Biden put us in. I think the best way to confront this problem is to be honest about it. And we all know Joe Biden put us in a big hole. So to the Democrats who talk about affordability a lot of the time, why don't you look yourselves in the mirror? Because the president who caused an affordability crisis was Joe Biden, and the president who has made the American people $1,300 richer is Donald J. Trump. We got all these things we could talk about. We could talk about the fact that we have homicides in this country at the lowest level that they have been in 125 years. Unreal. Just absolutely unbelievable progress on so many of these issues. And we got to talk about, why is it that we got homicides so low? And I'll give you two reasons. Number one, the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States happen to believe that we ought to be using federal power to support our cops instead of fighting against them. Isn't that common sense? But we also believe that the best way to lower homicides and carjackings and other violent crime is to get the illegal alien criminals out of the United States of America, and that's what we've been doing. And I just can't get over the fact that Democrats are so passionate about defending the rights of illegal aliens over American citizens. It is the one thing that will get the Democrats really fired up. A few weeks ago, we had the State of the Union address. And like the Speaker of the House, I'm one of the people who has a very unique perspective into the State of the Union, because I'm sitting directly behind the President of the United States. And maybe my favorite point in that whole speech is when he actually added this line towards the end of the day before he gave the speech, but where he says, I'm going to say something, and I want you to stand up and applaud if you agree with it. And he says, we believe that the American government should serve the interests of the American people, not illegal aliens. Okay, again, a layup for our friend Don Davis. He should have been up there clapping and cheering. Who could possibly disagree with that? But of course, he did nothing like the rest of the Democrats. But the funny thing about it is, they were so miserable because they realized that we had them in a bind. You could tell even a few of them were looking around like, well, this is like, we should be standing up and clapping for this. But like, is our leaders going to get mad at us? Is Nancy Pelosi going to take away some of our campaign money? You could tell they didn't know what to do. And that's maybe the biggest indictment of the modern Democratic Party. We talk about all these policies that you and I care about. We talk about lowering taxes on Social Security, about putting more money in your pocket. We talk about bringing tons of resources into this country to rebuild the American economy. Public safety, all of this stuff matters. But the thing that maybe matters way more than any single issue is that Democratic leadership in Washington, D.C., they cannot stand up for the simple principle that they fight for you and not an illegal alien. They can't stand up and clap for the fact that we're going to go to war on fraud in this country like we've never done, instead of taking your hard-earned money and giving it to people who don't deserve it. The entire Democratic Party, all of these policy disagreements, all of that stuff doesn't matter compared to the fact that they don't see themselves as your advocates, and Republicans, we do. Now, I'm not saying that's true of the Democrats all across our country. I think there are a lot of Democrats like my man on Papal were Democrats, conservative Democrats who love their country. But the Democrats that we have in Washington, D.C., they are a different breed. And we cannot fool ourselves that something has gone fundamentally wrong in that party. Their reason for existing is to fight for fraud, to fight for corruption, and to fight for people who have no right to be in this country. And Michael Whatley and Lori Buckout, their reason for being is to fight for you, and that's why we're here today. Now, I have just a couple final thoughts, and I'll take a few questions from the media, and then we'll have to get on the road. So one final thought is, and Kelly knows this, Michael Whatley knows this. By the way, I forgot to say thank you to our great SBA administrator, Kelly Loeffler. Thank you, Kelly, for everything that you're doing. Kelly has already identified hundreds of millions of dollars of fraudulent payments and has cut that stuff out of our system. I think it'll be billions by the end of the year. She is fighting for you every single day, like all of us are trying to do in the Trump administration. And as Kelly knows, when you give a speech, you talk to people, and it's, I'm sure it's being televised right now because I am the vice president. The president, thank you. But the president always called me, and he'll always say, like, she talked about coal earlier. I've talked so many times about ending the war on coal. We've got great coal resources. And I'll come off stage and think I did a great job. And the president will call me and say, JD, did a great job, great speech, but it's not coal. It's clean, beautiful coal. So for the president, you got to know, his strong political advice is it's not coal anymore. It is clean, beautiful coal. But I actually was with the president earlier today in the Oval Office. We were talking about, a lot of issues that are going on. And he said, JD, tell the people in North Carolina two things. And I almost forgot this, and I was going to get in trouble. I was going to get one of those phone calls, Kelly. But the president said, tell the people in North Carolina two things. First of all, tell them I love them, and we're going to be with them every single step of the way. That was the first message from the president, so I've now delivered that. And tell them that their great furniture industry, all the cabinetry, the beautiful craftsmanship that this region of our country was known for, tell them that we are going to fight for that industry like never before. And if you're building something, if you're building a furniture facility, a furniture business right here in the state of North Carolina, we're going to cut your taxes. But if you're trying to bring in foreign furniture to undercut the jobs of the people of North Carolina, we're going to raise your taxes by 50%. We're going to put a big fat tariff on those foreign companies bringing that stuff into the United States. So, Mr. President, I've delivered that message too. I hope I get an A+ on this particular speech. But here, let me just leave you with one final thought. You heard Kelly and Michael, and everybody's talked about this. This is one of, as I know very personally, one of the proudest states for military leadership and military service anywhere in the country. And I know you all are proud of that, and you should be. We've got incredible bases from all across the services. We've got great Marine bases, Army bases, and so forth in the great state of North Carolina. And I know it's such an important part of this state, not just economically, that matters, but set to the side the dollars and cents. You all, raise your hand if you've served in the United States military. Let's give those guys a round of applause. So thank you to all of our veterans, a pretty good chunk of veterans just here in this audience. But here's the thing. You all know that right now we are engaged in a military operation to ensure, as the president has said repeatedly, that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. That is a simple principle and standard. Frankly, every president has taken affirmative steps to ensure that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Now, but we also know that there are a lot of people from the state of North Carolina who are in harm's way right now. And so I want all of us, when we go home, we leave this event, I want all of us to say a prayer, not just for the North Carolinians, but for the people of all of our 50 states who put on the uniform and are willing to sacrifice for the safety and security and freedom of the United States of America. I want every single person, I want you to tell every single person who is serving overseas in harm's way that this crowd in North Carolina has their back. Thank you all. So with that, let me take a few questions from our media, and then I'll have to hit the road here. I'd like to start with the local reporters. We'll get time to the national folks if we got it.
Hi, I'm Danielle Battaglia. I'm with the News and Observer. You've spoken a lot today about Irina Zarutska's death, and that resulted in Operation Charlotte's Web. Senator Tom Tillis has asked a lot from the Department of Homeland Security about what happened with Operation Charlotte's Web. He said his questions are unanswered by DHS, and one of those questions is if American citizens were arrested during Operation Charlotte's Web. I was wondering if you could answer that today.
Well, look, Operation Charlotte's Web is fundamentally an operation to try to make our country safe by getting violent criminals off the streets of the United States of America. Now, I was not aware that Tom Tillis, who's a friend of mine, he and I have had our disagreements, but Tom Tillis and I know each other. I'll go back and offer to speak with Tom about this. I didn't know that he said his questions had been unanswered by DHS. Now, that may be because he asked those questions a week ago and they haven't had time to answer them. You may have seen we've had a little bit of turnover in the Department of Homeland Security. But what I do promise Tom is that the new leadership at DHS is going to get him a response to his questions. But we're going to keep on using the Department of Homeland Security to do the very simple thing of making the homeland more secure. That's why it exists, and we're going to keep on doing that.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Bill Barrow with the Associated Press. What did you advise the president initially as he considered his actions in Iran, and what are you urging him to do now, especially with Americans seeing higher prices at the pump and some of the fallout from that across the economy? Do you express any concerns like those you've expressed in the past on the possibility of these extended wars?
Well, Bill, I appreciate the question. I know you guys have to ask it, but imagine the situation. We're in the Situation Room where you can't even take your iPod in there, or your AirPods, I guess what they're called. You can't take your iPhone in there. You can't take anything in there because it is the most classified space anywhere in the world. And I sit there with Pete Hegseth and General Kane and Marco Rubio and the entire White House team, and the president and I and the entire senior team are talking about the options and about what we need to do and about how we must best protect the American people. I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not going to show up here and in front of God and everybody else tell you exactly what I said in that classified room, partially because I don't want to go to prison, and partially because I think it's important for the President of the United States to be able to talk to his advisors without those advisors running their mouth to the American media. Thank you all. Now that said, one thing I can promise you is that Chris Wright, our great Secretary of Energy, and Scott Bessent, our Secretary of the Treasury, have been running the administration's response to the economic element of this. Because we know, obviously, when the president takes action to make sure the American people are safe, we've got to do everything that we can to deal with the consequences of that economically. And it's not just oil. There's a whole host of things that we're focused on in the administration to try to ensure that we do the right thing by the American people. What the president has said very clearly is that he does not like higher oil prices, and neither do I. But he also believes that we're going to make the American people safer and that we're going to bring those prices at the pump back down to the levels they need to be for the American people. Now, here's the interesting thing. All this conversation happens where Joe Biden left us in a terrible situation, and the reason why gas prices are where they are today is because of Donald Trump's work to get them lower, because in the Biden administration, they were crazy high. The gas prices we're seeing today are nothing like what we saw at the peak of the Biden administration because the president has set us up for energy dominance. And one of the lessons we all have to take away, frankly, Every time we get involved in anything overseas, whether it's in the Middle East or anywhere else, the thing we got to take away from it is energy dominance and energy independence. Rely on our own people, rely on our own energy.
Thank you. I'm Dina with CBS 17 right over in Raleigh. Eastern North Carolina, Western North Carolina, two communities that have been really, really impacted by disasters.
Sure.
Hurricanes over in Eastern North Carolina, they happened a decade ago. Western North Carolina is still dealing with Hurricane Helene recovery. We heard from Governor Josh Stein several times that North Carolina has only gotten a fraction of what other states have gotten in federal funding for recovery for both communities. Can you talk a little bit about what your administration is doing to help the people that are still out of their houses, still not having businesses the same?
Yeah. So one of the things I love about Michael Whatley is, look, he obviously is a Republican. He's committed to the conservative agenda. He's a great guy, and obviously I'm aligned with him politically, but he's not afraid to say to me or to the President of the United States or anybody else, we've got to get these resources out faster to protect the people of North Carolina. So I actually, before you asked that question, I heard that from Michael Whatley, and I actually talked to the Secretary of the Treasury because I knew Michael was going to ask me about it again when I saw him here today. The simple fact is we have made this a priority. We are going to get the resources to the people of North Carolina that are necessary. We recognize that frankly, that we needed the new leadership to hasten that delivery of resources to the people of North Carolina. A lot of people in the media have said that, the reason why we made a change at DHS is because the Trump administration is backing off of its illegal immigration enforcement policy. That couldn't be further from the truth. The reason that we're making this change is because Kristi Noem has a great opportunity to serve in this new Shield of the Americas position. I think she's going to do a great job. And on the other hand, we think it's useful to have somebody come in and focus on some of this disaster relief and recovery stuff, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But I appreciate Michael bringing that to my attention, and I appreciate all the great people that represent North Carolina, even many Republicans, okay, who you might think, just because they're politically aligned, trust me, to all the people, I want them to know that even, maybe especially the people who are politically aligned, are more willing to be independent and more willing to tell us we got to quicken those resources to the people of North Carolina. I admire them for their courage, and it's going to mean better results for the people in this district. Thank you. Why don't we take one more question?
Mr. Vice President, Preston Mizell with Fox News Digital. I want to ask you real quick, you're leading the anti-fraud task force. I wanted to get a quick update on that, maybe some of the findings that you've found in Minnesota, but also you've mentioned before that you're interested in targeting other states as part of that task force. Are there other states that you've looked at, or that you may have flagged for potential fraud?
Well, we know there's a lot of fraud in California, and we're trying to get to the bottom of exactly what it looks like. And what we've done in the Trump administration, and the president has really empowered us to do this, is to take the first national look at the way the American people have been defrauded over many, many years. And I'll give you a few very concrete examples. So in the state of Minnesota, you asked about Minnesota. We think that there's probably been $19 billion at least of fraud just committed in Minneapolis and the surrounding areas. Let me give you an example of this, because it's not just the American people being defrauded. It's not just your tax dollars that are being stolen out of your wallet and given to fraudsters. It's the fact that the services we need to deliver to needy people are not getting delivered because they're going to fraudsters. So, for example, there's a program that we have, and I believe it's under Medicaid, where we try to help kids who have, autism, Asperger's, and so forth. Sometimes they need a little extra help. Sometimes they need somebody to sit with them after school. Sometimes they need somebody to provide transportation to certain places. And we have a program within Medicaid to ensure that these needy kids get the resources that they need. And it's one of the things, by the way, I love about the United States of America. We want everybody to work hard. We want everybody to play by the rules, but if we've got a needy kid in our community, we're not going to let that person fall down on their own. All Americans are going to lift that kid up together. That's an amazing thing about our country. But you know what was happening for this program that was meant to help needy kids is you would have Somali fraudsters, many of them illegal immigrants, who would go and say that they had an autistic kid even though they didn't. They would collect that money for themselves. You had businesses that were going around and rewarding families for engaging in this fraud, so the businesses were skimming off the top and getting rich in the process. How disgraceful is it that Democrats allowed a program that was meant to help needy American children to go to Somali illegal aliens? The President of the United States stopped it, and there's a lot more fraud beyond that we're going to stop as well. The one last point that I'll make here before we have to hit the road is, I hate to say this, and it's been shocking to me as we've gotten in this, and we want to, frankly, we want to arrest the people who engaged in criminal fraud. We want to make sure that the people who did this stuff realize there are serious consequences for it happening. We want to make sure that the needy kids all across our communities get what they need. There are so many layers to this anti-fraud initiative that the president has directed the administration to focus on. But you know what's so crazy about this? That nobody until Donald J. Trump thought to focus on it. Now, I obviously, I love the president, I admire the president, but this fraud was staring us in the face and nobody was doing anything about it. This is not rocket science. When you have a Somali fraudster come into the United States illegally and then set up a school to collect tax dollars. And the name of the school is the Quality Learning Center. Learning Center. But when they put the sign up, they take the N out, so it says Quality Learing Center. And that group, the Quality Learing Center, I don't know about you, but I don't want to send my kids to a school where they can't spell learn. That group was getting millions of dollars from the American taxpayer. There is so much fraud in our system. There are illegal aliens who shouldn't be here, who are on Medicaid. There are companies that are set up to provide medical devices, knee joints and hip joints and other medical devices that are necessary for people's health, that have collected hundreds of millions of dollars and have produced precisely 0 medical devices that have helped our people. This stuff has been going on forever, and every single person in this audience should be scandalized by it. But here's the crazy thing. It's not that all of you are scandalized that you're getting stolen from. The crazy thing is that we had a Democratic leadership who didn't do anything about it. And so here is what I promise every single person here, every single person watching, every single person in the state of North Carolina, that we are done allowing you to be stolen from. We are done allowing you to be defrauded. We are going to go after the fraud, and we are going to rebuild the American dream by making sure that it goes to Americans first and Americans only. God bless you all, and thank you for having me.
Hello. All right, so JD Vance with I think a pretty powerful speech right there. Actually, a very powerful speech. Let me break down a couple points that he made because they go kind of fast as he's talking. He talked about how, and all of these points, nobody in the media, not in the questions, not during the day, not in newscasts, they won't talk about it. We have the lowest homicide rate in 125 years. Nobody wants to talk about it. Housing sales, best in the last 5 years. Nobody wants to talk about it. Rent is dropping across the country, even said on CNBC. Nobody wants to talk about it. Your tax refunds, people are receiving much more of a refund from their taxes. They don't want to have anything to do with that. In fact, they want to grab that money back from you, including, what they're doing in New York. We're going to talk about that later. Obviously, the fraud. They don't want to even mention that. Don't even want to mention the amount of money they've stolen from you for decades, probably in the billions of dollars. And then, of course, what happened at the State of the Union when none of the Democrats would even stand to say that their main job is to protect Americans. Well, now you're seeing it actually play out. It's amazing that he asked these people, stand up if your first job is to protect Americans. They didn't stand, and now you're actually seeing them prove it. They won't fund the Coast Guard. They won't fund DHS. When these people tell you who they are, believe them. They don't care about America, including probably 90% of the media. I want to show you something interesting. This always cracks me up when I look at CNBC, because as much as they are a financial news channel, they're also very, lefty. So I want to show you this. Let me see if I can pull it up. All right. When I first pulled this up, everything was in the red, but the Dow has tipped a little bit. And it says S&P 500 is under pressure again from oil crisis. Heads for the third straight losing week. Oil crisis. Remember those words. Now check out these two stories. I love the first one, actually. The first one says, analysis. The U.S. is running out of ways to get oil prices down. Who said that? Who said that the U.S. is running out of ways to get oil prices down? And then right below it is something I love seeing. It's up to the military. Oh, okay, so the military is the only way. Thank you for acknowledging what some of us have been saying for quite some time. The military is the only way. Then they followed that story. I mean, you're looking at the actual website. The very next story says Trump can't drill his way out of this. What are you talking about? We already got as much oil as we need. It is a fake crisis. And then it says oil holds above 100 as market shrugs off U.S. measures to reduce prices. Nope, it's fallen. It still looks like a bad arrhythmia on a heart scan. But I love this. The very next story is about Pete Hegseth saying on the Strait of Hormuz, don't need to worry about it. So you've got people at news agencies who are trying to interpret what's going on to cast shade on the Trump administration. You've got the people who are running things, Trump, Vance, Pete Hegseth, telling you this, but people don't want to listen to them. And so they're twisting words, and it's working. I see people in the chat, oh, I'll believe it when I see it, and stuff like that. They don't want to believe what they're being told. That's okay. That's okay. You guys will find out. And the funny thing is, I look at this and I see oil doing this kind of stuff and gold doing like this. And I'm going to ask you a question. And without using Google, I want you to be honest. I'm gonna put my window in the chat here, and I'm going to look to see what you guys say. Because I bet many people won't know the answer to this question until they have to use Google. We're gonna know if you're using Google because it should be right off the top of your head. All right, you ready? When did the United States initiate the bombing attack on Iran? And we can pretend like this is, Jeopardy. Ding, ding, ding. And because I can see right now, I'm looking, and I bet you right now people are indeed looking at Google because they don't remember. They keep talking about forever wars because people don't seem to remember. First person there just said it. February 28th was when the bombing took place. Look at your calendar. It's Friday the 13th. It hasn't even been 2 weeks, and it's a crisis. Man, we went years with some of the crap that Biden did. And I'm not trying to do any whataboutism. I'm saying we rendered an entire country's military useless. And it's been 13 days, and everybody's trying to tell you it's a crisis. I know it seems longer because you probably have Iran fatigue seeing it on the news 24/7. But it's been 13 days. 13 days. It is the microwave equivalent of war. People are like, hey, let me put it in the microwave. Is it done yet? I've been waiting for 2 minutes, and it's still not done. Oh, we're some spoiled people over here. We're some really spoiled people. We got some uncomfortability for 2 weeks. Some really uncomfortable stuff happening in 2 weeks, and it's a crisis. I'm wondering how many people even remember that, because they've been told crisis, and you get the panicins like Alex Jones, we're losing. If they sit back and just think, this has been 13 days. That's it. 13 days of so-called crisis. Now, many of you may drive a certain amount. Many of you may not drive at all. But I would venture to say, even the person who drives a lot hasn't filled up his gas tank more than twice in the last 13 days. I haven't filled up mine. Robin hasn't filled up her car. I don't know how often you fill up your car, but let's say you drive an average of, 20 miles a day, 30 miles a day. You get 30 miles to the gallon, 20 miles to the gallon. You bought 10 gallons on February 28th. How many times have you had to refill? We're in a crisis. It's costing us all kinds of money. Once you step back and realize that you're being lied to, and you're accepting the lies, and you realize, wow, yeah, I haven't even filled up my gas tank yet. I haven't experienced the crisis. Rob and I went to dinner. Restaurant was packed. Ashley and the kids are coming down in a couple of weeks. We're gonna have fun. The crisis is what you make of it. You're not, I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say, unless you're a truck driver, you probably haven't experienced the so-called crisis. What you have experienced is a deluge of propaganda. And what JD Vance and his job and what President Trump has to do, they have to keep telling us, hey, chill. It's been 13 days. President Trump posted this at a little after midnight. We are totally destroying the terrorist regime of Iran, militarily, economically, and otherwise. Yet if you read the failing New York Times, you would incorrectly think that we are not winning. Iran's navy is gone. You're worried about there being an oil crisis here, and they don't have a navy. The Air Force is gone. They got no more jets. But we're facing a crisis. Missiles, drones, and everything else are being decimated, and their leaders have been wiped from the face of the earth. We have, just stop there. How many of our leaders are in a cave somewhere? Nope. Nope. JD Vance was just on stage. President Trump, he'll be out doing some stuff. Did a speech the other day. I don't see us, our guys aren't hiding. We have unparalleled firepower, unlimited ammunition, and plenty of time. Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. They have been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years, and now I, as the 47th President of the United States of America, we are killing them. What a great honor it is to do it. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. They've been killing for 47 years. You're paying a little bit too much for gas in 13 days. Make any sense to people when you sit back and think about it? Wait a second. I understand. I'm using the war like it's a microwave popcorn. It's not done yet. How long is it going to take for this to get done? I want my popcorn. Well, if you're at my age, you remember putting the Jiffy Pop on the thing and shaking the Jiffy Pop and watching it go like, hey, it's happening. It's actually happening. Oh, I'm popping me some popcorn. Remember those days? Before you could just put the pack of Orville Redenbacher in the microwave and like, oh, just watch it. Oh, yeah. People lost the fun of that. Kids today will never know that. Kids will never know that mom coming out and going and watching the hot popcorn pop up. Kids today will never know because nobody's showing them. Nobody's telling them. Like JD Vance said, I don't want my kids going to the Quality Learing Center. I don't want my kids watching CNN. I don't want my kids looking at the New York Times. It's all propaganda. And when you step back and look at things from a real perspective, you think to yourself, really? Has it only been 13 days? Yup. We couldn't do anything for 47 years. 13 days, President Trump and Pete Hegseth have completely decimated Iran to the point where people are hiding in holes. 13 days. And it's a crisis, according to what the media says. 13 days on the prospect of freeing the Middle East from a terrorist organization known as Iran. 13 days. It is 2026. President Trump has done something in 13 days, which no country and no president has been able to do in 100 years. 13 days. And I'm uncomfortable because my gas might be a couple cents higher. Come on, man, snap out of it. You know, as I was watching JD Vance speak today, I realized, I remember back in, after the election, people would put in the chat, oh, Barry, now that he's won, what are you going to have to talk about? And I realized today, I should have known, but we have an election coming up in 8 months. And I see the different people going out. We're going to have rallies. We're going to have continued speeches. And I see so many people who are panicking and black pillars who are doing anything to try and get you to think we're losing. And they're using a period of 13 days to define your loss. Meanwhile, your tax returns, your housing, the interest rates are going to go down as soon as Jerome Powell is done. And now I'm going to throw something else at you. Oil's 96, 97, certain stocks are taking a hit. What is going to happen when it is over? Will people who say it's a crisis say it's a crisis when all the markets just go boom? You see, that's the part people are not accepting. This is expected. I don't know who wouldn't have expected that this would, there'd be a couple of points here or there in gas I don't live on points. I live on the quality of life. And so the question you have to ask yourself right now is your quality of life declining? And you got to be honest, because everything you're seeing on TV, it ain't got nothing to do with you. The only way it's affecting you is because you're consuming it. I was talking to Ashley today, and it was really funny. She's like, none of my friends know what the hell's going on. I'm like, exactly. We are the news junkies. We sit here and want to see every single thing. That's who we are. We want to be satiated, and we want to know that our president and this country are headed in a different direction. Other people aren't looking at this and going, okay, it's been 13 days. I need to get cheaper gas right now. They don't even know. They don't even know what's going on. I just hope you feel better after learning that you're being bamboozled and it's only been 13 days of your life. 12 moons. That's it. And it's Friday. And guess what? Tomorrow's Saturday. You don't have to work. Most of us. And you can enjoy the day. You can enjoy the weekend. Barring some lone wolf doing something crazy, you're going to have a good weekend. You're going to enjoy life. Stop letting the crisis that they're manufacturing affect you. And I mean the people online as well as the media. Your best time this weekend is going to be when you turn that shit off. All right, so that was JD Vance, as we obviously know. Let me talk to you real quick. What do I got here next? about Patriot Addict. Let me just go ahead and do this and click this button. And did it happen? And where's my window with the thing here? Give me a second. All right, there we go. I have told you guys for probably 6 months or more about the Trump red knife. As you know, some of us know that President Trump's doing an amazing job in office, and it's only going to get better. I really hope you believe that. As a celebration for what President Trump is doing and how we are enjoying life, Patriot Addict is sending this free Trump red knife to people who voted for Trump and still stand by him. Just scan the QR code over here to get yours. This is just their way of saying thank you for supporting him, supporting this channel, and being a part of this moment in history. I've shown you guys before, don't want to cut myself. I'm not a knife guy, but it's a good knife. It's pretty big. I mean, this is a very, very strong, very sharp knife, so be very careful. It's got a window breaker on the end. It's got a seatbelt cutter that you can just chop off the seatbelt should you get stuck and need to do that. It's got some quick action stuff here that I'm not going to use because I'm not going to cut myself here. So this knife, you can get this knife, which normally retails for $70, but right now you get it for free. Just grab it for the cost of shipping. The cost of shipping might be 12 or 13 bucks. Just scan the QR code. Oh, which one? Over there to apply your 100% off coupon and claim your Trump knife today before they're all gone. All right, I will be back in 60 seconds. 90 seconds.
Back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
All right, so unless you were up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock this morning, you did not see the press conference with General Raising Cane and Pete Hegseth, which I have for you right now. So let's watch this. I may jump in because there's some really salient points that both of them make.
Good morning. I'll start, as we often do here at the Department of War, with the bottom line up front. For the world to hear and the press to actually admit that the United States is decimating the radical Iranian regime's military in a way the world has never seen before. Never before has a modern, capable military, which Iran used to have, been so quickly destroyed and made combat ineffective, devastated. We said it would not be a fair fight, and it has not been. As I stated during our first press conference on day 2, that was 10 short days ago, the combination of the world's two most powerful air forces is unprecedented and unbeatable. Between our Air Force and that of the Israelis, over 15,000 enemy targets have been struck. That's well over 1,000 a day. No other combination of countries in the world can do that. So today, as we speak, we fly over the top of Iran and Tehran fighters and bombers all day, picking targets as they choose. As our intelligence gets better and better and more refined. Looking up, the IRGC and Iranian regime sees only two things on the side of aircraft: the stars and stripes and the Star of David. The evil regime's worst nightmare. Iran has no air defenses. Iran has no air force. Iran has no navy. Their missiles, their missile launchers and drones being destroyed or shot out of the sky. Their missile volume is down 90%. Their one-way attack drones yesterday, down 95%. And as the world is seeing, they are exercising sheer desperation in the Straits of Hormuz. Something we're dealing with, we have been dealing with it, and don't need to worry about it. We're on plan to defeat...
I got to stop there. The Secretary of War blew off anything they're doing in the Strait of Hormuz, and don't even have to worry about it. Now, it may seem flippant because you don't have the information that he has. There is obviously another plan that they are about to hatch about the Strait of Hormuz. You don't even have to worry about it. Okay.
Destroy, disable all of their meaningful military capabilities at a pace the world has never seen before. But it's not just that Iran doesn't have a functioning air force, or that their entire navy is at the bottom of the Persian Gulf, or their missile force is shrinking daily. Even more importantly, they also don't have the ability to build more. That's the most important component I'd like to emphasize today. Soon and very soon, all of Iran's defense companies will be destroyed. For example, as of 2 days ago, Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity, every company that builds every component of those missiles, has been functionally defeated, destroyed. Buildings, complexes, and factory lines all across Iran destroyed.
All right, so I want to stop there because that's something the news is not reporting. Not only have they depleted their supply of munitions, they can't make any more. They literally have done the rope-a-dope. Shoot, 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 and we're going to have our jets fly around you and wait till you just blow everything. You got nothing left. Now the good part comes in. Now we bring in the warthogs to and just blow them apart. Now it gets to the, dare I say, the fun part.
So we're shooting down and destroying what missiles they still have in stock, but more importantly, ensuring that they have no ability to make more. Their production lines, their military plants, their defense innovation centers defeated. Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do.
That was a huge calm. That was meant to go to the heart of these people. That is meant to get them to react. These people have certain keywords that make them go ballistic. He just called them rats. If you know anything about the stuff that they believe, whoa, they're rats. That's what rats do. He's completely dehumanized them. That was a serious con.
We know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured.
Wait a second. That's what I said yesterday. Dude, you watching the show? I called him the not-so-supreme guy. Oh, yeah, somebody over there is watching my stuff.
He put out a statement yesterday, a weak one, actually, but there was no voice and there was no video. It was a written statement. He called for unity. Apparently killing tens of thousands of protesters is his kind of unity. Iran has plenty of cameras and plenty of voice recorders. Why a written statement? I think you know why. His father, dead. He's scared, he's injured, he's on the run, and he lacks legitimacy. It's a mess for them. Who's in charge? Iran may not even know. With every passing hour, we know, and we know they know, that the military capabilities of their evil regime are crumbling. They can barely communicate, let alone coordinate. They're confused, and we know it. Our response? We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy for our enemies. Yet some in this crew, in the press, just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. I used to be in that business, and I know that everything is written intentionally. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen the last couple of days, alongside visuals of civilian or energy targets that Iran has hit, because that's what they do. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Because they are. They know it, and so do you, if it can be admitted. Or more fake news from CNN. Reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better.
The media got pissed at that. When he said the sooner Ellison takes over, the better, I saw everybody from Chuck Todd to Jake Tapper freak out because they know what's about to happen. If you don't know who David Ellison is, big money guy, MAGA, he bought CNN. And so they know what's about to happen. They know they're about to be cleaned out. And they're all freaking out because their entire time that they're on TV, all they do is bitch and moan and cry about Trump, and they make stuff up. And they can't believe that the Secretary of War, a member of the cabinet, said, can't wait to get him out of there. Oh, it's going to become state TV. Like it wasn't.
Another example of a fake headline that I saw yesterday. War widening. Here's a real headline for you for an actual patriotic press. How about Iran shrinking, going underground? You see, Iran's leaders are hiding in bunkers and moving into civilian areas. The only thing that is widening is our advantage. Not to mention our Gulf partners stepping up even more, now going on the offense, and have always been with us on the defense with collective and integrated air defenses. Our will, it is unshakable. Our options, maximized, and our capabilities still building. We're going up, they're going down. As I said from the start, President Trump holds the cards. He'll determine the pace, the tempo, and the timing of this conflict. His hand firmly on the wheel, as well as on the throttle setting. America first, peace through strength, in action. From day one, as our nation expects and the president demands, our warriors have fought with lethality, precision, and rapid innovation. In fact, today will be, yet again, the highest volume of strikes that America has put over the skies of Iran and Tehran. The number of sorties and number of bomber pulses, the highest yet, ramping up and only up. And quantity has a quality of its own as we continue to ramp up. Every tool of AI, of cyber, of space, EW, counter-UAS, you name it, we're employing it. Blinding, confusing, and deceiving our enemy. Because we know who the good guys are here. And the American people do too. And that makes my job simple. I serve God, the troops, the country, the Constitution, and the President of the United States, and answer only to those. All in service of victory on the battlefield and the military objectives that we've laid out from day one. Defeat the missiles, missile launchers, and defense industrial base, which I laid out today. Defeat the Navy and deny Iran the ability to have a nuclear weapon. Clear, decisive, achievable. And Admiral Cooper knows, the CENTCOM commander who we spent a couple of hours with last night, that in pursuit of those objectives, we have his back in every way. His commanders know that, and so do the troops in harm's way. Admiral Cooper gets what he needs, the assets, the authorities, the munitions, you name it. We will stop at nothing to win. War is hell. War is chaos. And as we saw yesterday with the tragic crash of our KC-135 tanker, bad things can happen. American heroes, all of them. And as I have with all of them, as we have, we will greet those heroes at Dover, and their sacrifice will only recommit us to the resolve of this mission. But war in this context and in pursuit of peace is necessary, which is why each day on bended knee we continue to appeal to heaven, to Almighty God's providence, to watch over and give special skill and confidence to our leaders and to our warriors. To those warriors who this nation prays for every single day, I hear from all of you out there who pray for them every day. Stay on bended knee and pray for them. I continue to say to them, Godspeed. May the Lord bless you and keep keep going. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. Before I start with an update, I also want to address the tragic loss of our KC-135 refueling aircraft yesterday. The incident occurred over friendly territory in western Iraq while the crew was on a combat mission, and again was not the result, as CENTCOM has said, was not the result of hostile or friendly fire. We're still treating this as an active rescue and recovery operation. As CENTCOM announced this morning, 4 airmen have been recovered, and the Air Force and U.S. Central Command will provide updates as information becomes available. Please keep these brave airmen, their families, friends, and units in your thoughts in the coming hours and days. Our service members make an incredible sacrifice to go forward and do the things that the nation asks of them. It's a reminder of the true cost of the dedication and commitment of the Joint Force. We're also aware of a fire on board the USS Gerald R. Ford. We're thinking about the crew there who were injured in the fire. We believe and hope that everyone will be okay, and we're grateful for that. And for any further questions on that, we'd refer you to NAVCENT or to the Navy. This morning, we enter the 13th day of Operation Epic Fury, and we continue to make progress towards our military objectives. As the Secretary said, today will be our heaviest day of kinetic fires across the operating area. CENTCOM continues to attack ballistic missile and drone capabilities so that they are no longer a threat to U.S. forces, our bases, or our partners. They're continuing to destroy the Iranian Navy to ensure freedom of navigation, and this means going after Iran's mine-laying capability and destroying their ability to attack commercial vessels. And we're targeting their defense industrial base so they cannot rebuild the capabilities that can harm America's interests or our partners in the future. As Admiral Cooper said in his update on Wednesday, Iranian combat power continues to decline as a result of the continued strikes, as the Secretary talked about. We've attacked over 6,000 targets, and our strike packages continue to launch every hour, and we've maintained an unprecedented number of sorties up overhead of Iran. CENTCOM is now persistently over the enemy, and a result, we've seen a reduction in missile and one-way attack fires, as the Secretary said. In less than 2 weeks, we've rendered the Iranian Navy combat ineffective and continue to attack naval vessels, including all of their Soleimani-class warships, which were armed with anti-ship missiles and anti-aircraft weapons. We've made progress, but Iran still has the capability to harm friendly forces and commercial shipping, and our work on this effort continues. But I want to make something clear. The only thing preventing commercial traffic and flow through the Straits right now, which there is some through the Straits, is Iran. They are the belligerents here holding the Straits closed, although there is some traffic moving through there. We've made it a priority to target Iran's mine-laying enterprise, their mine layers, the naval bases and depots, in addition to the missiles that could influence the Straits. And CENTCOM continues to attack those efforts. And we continue to make progress on the industrial base to include factories, weapons warehouses that are stored in, and we will continue to do so in the coming days, especially today. Now, as I often do, I want to share a little bit about our incredible joint force. Today, I'm going to talk about our incredible artillery force comprised of American soldiers and Marines who've been sinking ships, destroying depots, and launching Army tactical missile systems, or ATACMS, precision strike missiles, or PRISMs, and high-mobility rocket systems, or HIMARS. From outside Iran, our Army and Marine artillerymen are hitting sites that Iran relies on to project power beyond their borders and protect our deployed. In just the first 13 days of this operation, our artillery forces have made history. They fired the first precision strike missiles ever used in combat, reaching deep into enemy territory. They've used Army ATACMS to sink multiple ships, including a submarine, and they've done all of this with the precision and determination that comes from relentless training and trust in each other and in their weapon systems. Yesterday, I had the incredible honor and privilege of speaking with some of our young soldiers from the 3rd Battalion, 27th Field Artillery Regiment out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the unit and the crew that fired the first precision strike missiles. The soldiers I met came from all over this great country: New York, Texas, Delaware, California. One had been in the Army only 6 months and been in the unit for 2 months and was already deployed. He was the youngest at 20, but you would not know it from the way that they talked about their mission. The others were 22 and 28 years old. They spoke with the sense of calm pride, purpose, and clarity that tells you clearly they understand the weight of what they're doing and the people who depend on them. I asked them to walk me through a fire mission. I asked not just what they do, but what they feel, especially those first crew members on this particular mission. These soldiers basically live in these vehicles behind us. The cab, very tight, 2 folks sit next to each other with the crew commander behind them. It's jammed inside there with their personal weapons and kit, and they sit and wait for a fire mission. And when that fire mission comes, they close the armored doors and begin to program the systems. They then throw 3 simple toggle switches, and 10 to 15 feet behind them, a rocket motor ignites, and the round is headed downrange to do the nation's work. I asked these youngsters, these young, awesome Americans, what does that feel like? And one of them just looked at me and said, "It's awesome." No drama, no hesitation, in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night, in the sun, the rain, in the snow, flawless execution. Their Marine counterparts are out there doing the same thing every night. Same work, same pressure, same expectations, same results. And we hand tremendous and enormous responsibility to these young Americans, and they carry it with a level of maturity, grit, professionalism, and tenacity that makes me incredibly proud to be a part of their joint force. Their parents and families would and should be incredibly proud, and their leaders and I trust them to do the deeds that they must do in difficult circumstances every single time. I also want to touch today I want to touch for a moment today on their leadership. These young Americans are led by extraordinary young leaders out at the tactical edge. Yesterday, the battery commander and her NCO were there with this crew on the same video screen. The 2 of them hardly said a word. They didn't have to. In their eyes, and in particular the commander's eyes, you could see the quiet trust and confidence she had in these soldiers and the rest of their battery. It came through loud and clear, and we appreciate their leadership. When I asked these soldiers yesterday, what is it that you need from the Secretary and I, they looked at each other, paused for a moment, and looked back at me and said, "More rounds, sir." It was awesome. So thank you to those soldiers and Marines out on the firing line supporting our mission, and thank you to their families. Our joint force will continue today to deliver dynamic fires against the enemy from the land, sea, and air. We remain deeply grateful for their service, and for the 3rd time today, I'll mention that today will be our busiest day. This mission remains complex, dangerous, and difficult, and every service member has a family waiting for them to return home. And I want to thank all of the families today who are supporting their deployed forces and those doing the work here in the States. On a personal note today, I also want to thank the Joint Staff and the team that I have the pleasure of working with, some of them right here in this room. They are working 24 hours a day to deliver the options that we must to the Secretary and to the President. Today, as I close, I ask that we remember our fallen and those participating in the recovery operations to bring home our lost KC-135 crew, that we keep those service members and their families in their thoughts and prayers. Those are very, very, very tough days when that knock comes on the door for people on both sides of the door. Again, thank you to our deployed, thank you to our fallen and to their families and to the Joint Force. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Alexandra Ingersoll, One America News. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Strait of Hormuz and when it might be fully operational again? And how do we ensure our objective of denying Iran a nuclear weapon if they continue to align with our adversaries?
So I'll take it and chime in, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like it all. I want to emphasize what the chairman said about that. The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that. Now, there's a reason why we chose, as one of our primary objectives, destroy the Navy. We understood the ability to interdict shipping is something Iran has done for 40 years. It's key terrain. They've used it as leverage. The world is seeing what they'll do to fight back in that context. And so we've heard them talk about taking various measures, and we're planning for all of them. So we have a plan for every option here. We're working with our interagency partners, and that's not a strait we're going to allow to remain contested or with a lack of flow of commercial goods. So we're aware of that. We're laser focused on our military objectives, but also want to make sure our partners across this government understand we're working with you to make sure that energy flows. And that's an important part. And the second question was on the nuclear capability. As we've said from the beginning, their strategy shifted just from defense of their nuclear facilities to a conventional umbrella of so many missiles that no one would challenge their ability to the opportunity to defeat their nuclear capabilities. And it was growing by the day. So with Iran at its weakest moment, going at that ballistic missile capability creates an opportunity to ensure at any point in time that Iran give up their nuclear capabilities, or if need be, you prevent them from doing it, as the president has done once already with Operation Midnight Hammer, obliterating those capabilities. So the conventional side is a huge part at getting at denying nuclear capabilities, if you have anything you want to add.
I appreciate the question. I'm not going to comment on what we may or may not be thinking about any options that the Joint Force could be tasked to do in the future, whether it's on the nuke matter or anything else. Thank you.
But we have options.
Of the mines that are in the Strait of Hormuz and our ability to, obliterate them?
We retain a range of options to solve a whole variety of problems, and that is one set of options that we have, that we hold on to. So,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Mary Margaret with Daily Wire. Thank you both for the update. ABC News has updated its story from yesterday, clarifying that the FBI report on Iran possibly striking California was unverified. I just want to ask you, what impact did that original reporting have on the public, and does Iran even have the ability to conduct such a strike? And then just really quickly on another note, what role did Vice President Vance play in counseling the president on this conflict? Can you speak to some of the media reporting suggesting that there is a division there?
That reporting on California obviously had no impact on us. Also, we're used to bad reporting. We're used to ill-informed reporting. And so it doesn't change how we operate, but we engage with it to prove that it's not true, as CENTCOM has done so well. Ultimately, I look at the reports on a daily basis of our interagencies all over it. My partners across government are all over, looking for indications and warnings, keeping the American people safe. There's a lot of things Iran has said it can do for a long time, thankfully, including engaging their proxies and getting them involved in the fight, which they haven't been able to do. So we're watching that very closely. And as far as the vice president, he's an incredible member, leader of this team as well, alongside the president and the Secretary of State. I can't say enough great stuff about this team, how it works together, how it provides options to the president, and the vice president every single day is a key voice in that, an indispensable voice in that, actually. In the middle there, red tie. Yes.
Michael Gordon, Wall Street Journal. Iran is thought to have 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium in at least 2 locations and several thousand kilograms of lower purity material. Can you conclude this mission successfully without physically taking control of that material, or are you counting on diplomatic negotiations to provide some measure of control leading to its removal? You've mentioned missiles, you've mentioned drones, military industry. You haven't stipulated that taking care of that material is a mission priority.
We've said from the beginning, deny Iran nuclear weapons as a core mission. We retain options across the spectrum to ensure that they never do. And President Trump has said that. And that's why this mission actually couldn't have been possible without Midnight Hammer. Without what those B-2s did going across and obliterating those facilities, that set the condition for the opportunity to do what we're doing now. So the president's kept his eye focused on nuclear capabilities. And I will say we have a range of options, up to and including Iran deciding that they will give those up, which of course we would welcome. They weren't willing to do in negotiations. I would never tell this group or the world what we're willing to do or how far we're willing to go, but we have options for sure. Right next to him.
Me?
No, right there.
Right here, sir? Right here? I'll take it for sure.
Right there, yep. No, you, yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can you please provide some guidance? It's been 13 days in. Can you please provide some guidance, both of you, about the strike on the girls' school? There has been reporting that indicates that preliminary inquiry, even though it's ongoing, has determined that the airstrike was carried out by the United States. Given that there is another competing narrative that this was done intentionally, can you provide us with some guidance about whether this was the case? Secondly, we are also getting, we had heard yesterday from Energy Secretary Wright that said that the U.S. Navy would not be ready until the end of the month to provide escorts through the Strait of Hormuz. Is that an accurate assessment? And if so, can you tell us why? Thank you.
Well, with an issue on your first topic, an issue of such seriousness, we're not going to let reporting lead us or force our hand into indicating what happened in a particular situation, because the truth matters. So I can report that CENTCOM has designated an investigating officer to complete a command investigation. The command investigation will take as long as necessary to address all the matters surrounding this incident. And the investigating officer is from outside CENTCOM and is a general officer. But I will note to this group and to the world, there's only one entity in this conflict between us and Iran that never targets civilians. Literally never targets civilians. I look at the process that's used on dynamic strikes or on boat strikes and others. We have a very high fidelity process in that case. So we don't target, Iran does. We will investigate, and we'll get to the truth, and we'll share it when we have it. Absolutely. And what was the second question?
About the Strait of Hormuz, about the Navy. Secretary Wright.
It's a tactically complex environment, and before I think we want to take anything through there at scale, we want to make sure that we do the work pursuant to our current military objectives to do that safely and smartly. So we're continuing to develop.
And we do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And like I said, it is dynamic, but this is, I think, almost by 20% the largest day of strikes. And as I said, our intelligence just gets better and better. That feedback loop feeds itself. And as we refine those targets, it exponentially increases what we can hit and why, to include strategic things the world's talking about and looking at. And it's our job to have a plan for it, which we do, to address it, and ensure that the president has options. We've done that from the beginning in this department. He'll have options on that topic as well.
Question: if General Raising Cane and Pete Hegseth are running this, there are no leaks, who would have told the media that we blew up a girls' school? They're getting their information from Iranians and then posting stories about it.
The United States, that strike, sir?
An investigation is an investigation. That's what it is. It doesn't mean anything other than that. Yes.
Ryan Morgan with the Epic Times. Regarding today's busy day of strikes, last week you guys discussed the progress of the air campaign to gain air superiority and to transition from these standoff weapons launched at range to more overhead strikes. Can you now say that these strikes today are going to rely entirely on stand-in over-the-top weapons, or are standoff range weapons still in play?
It's a great question. I can say, based on the report I read this morning at 0600, only 1% of the munitions we're using today are standoff munitions. The rest are over-the-top, the types of which we have a plethora, which was our goal from the beginning. You use standoff, which are more exquisite. You transition to a much larger magazine depth, ensuring that you're preserving all the capabilities you have and your options across the force.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Has Iran placed any mines
Right
since
here.
the war
Please.
started? Is Iran placing new mines?
We've heard them talk about it, just like you've reported recklessly and wildly about it. But we have no clear evidence. We have no clear evidence of that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, given everything the U.S. have accomplished in the last 24 hours, as of today, how do you define success in this military option? And has that definition changed from day one? And also regarding Iran government telling countries hosting U.S. American bases that they could face attacks, what is the Pentagon doing about that?
First question is, what is the objective?
How do you define success as of today?
Yeah, I mean, we define success, again, 13 days in, by reaching the military objectives that we've laid out. Launchers, missile launchers, defense industrial base, their Navy, the ability to project power in the naval sense, leading toward denying them to get a nuclear weapon. And we've got internal metrics that look at that we represent to the president, who then can decide how long he'd like to continue in pursuit of those military objectives. So that hasn't changed. There's a lot of things a lot of people talk about, what they want us to do or what we should do or what we should stay focused on. And again, I've addressed this before, and I think it's worth saying again. Mission creep or expansive missions or prolonged timelines or democracy building or nation building, you name it, has not been part of what President Trump wants us to be involved in. We're solving for something here, this particular mission set, but also recognizing this country's conditioned to previous leaders, whether it's George W. Bush or Barack Obama or Joe Biden, who had these expansive, nebulous mission sets that kept changing all the time. So the timeline kept moving, and we kept pouring more troops in and on the ground. And then pretty soon everyone wonders, like I did in Afghanistan in 2012, what's our mission here? I'm not clear what it is. We're taking the opposite approach here and saying we've defined these objectives, we're pursuing those objectives, the president has his hand on the throttle and will decide ultimately when they've been reached that serve the purposes of the United States of America, American interests first.
And regarding the threats to countries hosting...
Yeah, right here.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Polls show over 80% of Republicans support the president's military action in Iran, but there's some consternation in parts of the party, particularly from your fellow Fox News alum, Tucker Carlson. He called the war disgusting and evil, and then said of unconditional surrender, which the president has called for, means foreign troops get to rape your wives and daughters. Have you...
Okay, so you go to college and you spend 4 years, you're like, I'm going to be a reporter. Yeah. And you work at some local newspaper, and then you maybe go to a radio station, and then maybe a local television station, and maybe then, you get a network job, and then you get assigned to the White House or government, and you walk in and ask the Secretary of War in the middle of a warlike operation what Tucker Carlson said. You serious? You want me to respond to something Tucker Carlson said? The F is wrong with these people?
These comments, and what's your reaction to them?
We're busy executing on behalf of great patriotic Americans with a clear mission that's 47 years overdue, and we're going to execute on that regardless of what people say about it. Yeah, right here.
You have said that the U.S. military has essentially aerial superiority, naval superiority over Iran, yet we're not escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Why? How did you not plan for this?
We planned for it. We recognize it. Because ultimately we want to do it sequentially in a way that makes the most sense for what we want to achieve, and ensure that we're sending the right signals to the world when we do so. So when Chris Wright speaks or we speak, it's based on a full assessment of what we're up against, what we want to say to the world, how we want them to see and understand the conflict. It's like this whole idea of the war widening. That's what the press wants to make it look like it's widening and chaos is ensuing. No, we're actually closing in on grabbing hold of and controlling what objectives we want to achieve and how we want to achieve them. It's called shaping operations and setting the conditions. But when you shape the environment, you don't always tell. I mean, foolish political leaders and foolish military leaders of the past will hang an exact deadline on it. Or here's exactly when we'll do what we're going to do. Or here's how long it's going to take us. And then if you meet that, maybe you meet it. But if you don't, you fail. And if you're far beyond, we know exactly what we're shaping and why. We're sending those signals working across the interagency. The Strait of Hormuz is something we've paid attention to from the beginning. And the American people can rest assured we will ensure that our interests are advanced, no doubt. Yeah, right there, green jacket.
Mike Bress with the Washington Examiner. How many American casualties have there been, and where were the American service members when they were injured?
I mean, it's a bunch of return to duty. So we've had a large majority have gone in for some medical treatment and return to duty. We've had in Kuwait, Jordan, down across the southern flank a little bit, a variety of places, most from one-way attack strikes.
But I want to clarify that. I think what we've tried to do here is clarify those numbers rather than saying KIA or WIA wounded. Be more clear about that because the overwhelming majority, almost 90%, thank God, are returned to duty. Minor injuries returned to duty, and so that number can look a certain way, and our job is to add some fidelity to it.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. David Zia, Real America's Voice. Can you share what types of munitions have been used on the attacks on commercial shipping? Have any hit mines? And are USVs, unmanned surface vehicles, being used? And just a quick follow-up, were there any arrests in Fort Campbell with the drone thefts?
I'm not familiar with the Fort Campbell thing. The strikes that Iran has taken on shipping up north in the vicinity of Kuwait have been, I believe, from surface to surface missiles up there. We've not seen any USV activity out of Iran that we've seen in the Gulf at this point.
Nor have any ships hit mines or anything.
There's
like
been
that.
no
still flowing through the
There's been no strikes that we.
One more time, right here.
Thank you so much. Heather Mullins, Lindell TV. My first question is, President Trump is set to meet with Xi Jinping in a couple of weeks. How much support, if any, has China been given the Iranian regime? And then the second question, I know President Trump calling for an unconditional surrender from Iran. Given that the U.S. is working in partnership with Israel on this whole operation, is Iran expected to meet demands of both countries or just the U.S., and what are those demands?
Well, we're proud to partner with the incredible capabilities the Israelis have, but our objectives are our objectives, and so when those are met, as we meet those, we'll set the tempo of when those are met. What was the first question?
He's meeting with Xi Jinping in a couple
the president
weeks.
has a historic relationship with President Xi. They look forward to having a dynamic conversation. Two powers. President Trump ultimately has established terms of that relationship which advance the United States of America, and that meeting will continue to ensure we advance that. That's all I've got. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Man, these reporters, I just don't get it. I don't know if people are feeding them the questions or they're just that stupid. I mean, just imagine if you got invited to that press conference and you're sitting in front of a general and a secretary of war, what would you be asking? You think Tucker Carlson has said something you want to talk about? What an idiot. Like I told you that this was it's Friday, it's supposed to be a slow news day. There's no such thing as a slow news day. Now, not just beginning, but it began while they were on a press conference with Judge Janine talking about how a judge basically screwed them over with their Jerome Powell investigation. So we're going to cut to that so we can include that today. So we got another event getting ready to happen. She's getting ready to walk out here any second. There they are. They're all waiting. So we'll go ahead and let me turn that down. We'll go ahead and take this as soon as she walks out. But here she comes. All right, here we go. Turn it back up. Turn up the volume.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
All right. So, I'm here to speak about the decision that has been rendered in the case involving the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Now, the American public is fed up with public monies that seem to go into a black hole, especially in D.C., where no one is held accountable. One of the age-old tools that all prosecutors have to investigate any crime, including cost overruns, is a grand jury subpoena. Today, however, in Washington, an activist judge has taken that tool away from us by inserting himself and preventing the grand jury from even obtaining, let alone hearing evidence. He has neutered the grand jury's ability to investigate crime. As a result, Jerome Powell today is now bathed in immunity, preventing my office from investigating the Federal Reserve. This is wrong, and it is without legal authority. In June of 2025, Jerome Powell testified before the Senate Banking Committee, making, quote, questionable statements that did not comport with publicly available documents. And that was regarding the atrocious cost overrun of more than $1 billion. I didn't say million, I said billion, in renovations to his headquarters. This from the man who says that he is the steward of our public funds. In November, the United States Attorney's Office began an inquiry. Prosecutors from my office gathered information from...
By the way, real quick, guess who the judge was? Bo Asperger.
Sent an email to the Federal Reserve to have a conversation, a meeting, or even a phone call to discuss our concerns. There was no response. On December 29th, we sent an email to have a conversation, a meeting, or even a phone call to discuss our concerns. Again, we were ignored. We, in fact, asked to meet the first week in January. We were ignored. It was at that point that 2 grand jury subpoenas were issued to the Federal Reserve, not even to Jerome Powell. Again, no response, no compliance, but instead a woe is me video by Mr. Powell falsely claiming that he was being threatened with criminal indictment. And claiming victim status, Powell proceeds to call his political friends in D.C. and around the world to gin up support for himself, all the while refusing to produce simple documents. Now enter local District Court Judge James Boasberg, whose written decision on its face makes clear his antipathy toward President Trump and this administration. He quashes both subpoenas, thereby prohibiting us from reviewing any records and precluding us from submitting records to the grand jury. That grand jury, of course, comprised of ordinary people. Ladies and gentlemen, no one is above the law. But for the first time, a judge is ruling that a grand jury subpoena, on its face legal in all regards, can be ignored because a judge thinks the subject is beyond reproach. This is a decision that is untethered to the law. It creates chaos where any defendant who wishes to evade an investigation, guilty or not, can allege I'm a victim, I'm being targeted, and therefore you cannot investigate me. And if you find the right judge, he'll buy it. This is the antithesis of American justice. Exonerating anyone without any records, without an investigation or question, is not how our criminal justice system works. This judge has put himself at the entrance door to the grand jury, slamming that door shut, irrespective of the legal process, and thus preventing the grand jury from doing the work that it does. So what is the law? What is the law? According to the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, certainly higher than the court that Boasberg is on, a grand jury, every grand jury, has broad discretion to, quote, investigate merely on suspicion that the law is being violated, merely on suspicion the law is being violated, or because it wants assurance that the law is not being violated. In fact, the court says a grand jury may act on tips and rumors. Right here are the cases and the citations from the highest court in the land. And yet this judge is shockingly requiring the government to show something akin to probable cause, and those are his words, probable cause, in order to justify the issuance of a grand jury subpoena. Folks, probable cause is not and never has been the standard that prosecutors in this country need in order to go into a grand jury. This is not and has never been the law of the land. And so this decision today by Judge Boasberg runs directly afoul of our highest court's admonition that courts and judges must not and cannot saddle grand juries with mini trials and preliminary showings that impede a prosecutor's investigation and thus frustrate the public's interest in the fair and expeditious administration of justice. No one, folks, is above the law. And this outrageous decision will be appealed by the United States Department of Justice. Go ahead, sir.
Do you think that your office's failure to attempt to prosecute 6 members of Congress?
I'm not here to talk about 6 members of Congress. I'm here to talk about the fact that the grand jury has a job. They look at evidence. They decide whether they want to indict. If they don't indict, so be it. And if you want to know what the judge thinks, go ask him. Next question.
Can I get your reaction to statements from Senator Tom Tillis, who you know has been blocking and vowed to continue blocking?
You know, honestly, I don't know and I don't care, and I'll tell you why. I am in a legal lane. All of the rest is white noise. I don't care what they say. I have a job. I have the ability to go into a grand jury. There are questions that the American public and people in D.C. are entitled to know where $1 billion has gone. And that's my focus.
But he is asking for an assurance that the investigation into Powell has ended it. Are you willing to concede?
Did you hear what I just said? Yeah, I just said that this decision will be appealed by the United States Department of Justice. That's the answer to your question.
What crimes exactly are you investigating?
We're looking at 1001 And we're also looking at a statute having to do with fraud, but it's up to the grand jury to make that decision. We're $1 billion over in cost overruns. Are you kidding? $1 billion? We're not talking about huge buildings here. Go ahead.
Kevin Warsh is Trump's pick, though, President Trump.
I don't even know who he is.
So isn't this just essentially holding up President Trump's pick or any forthcoming picks since Senator Till has said he will not vote?
Okay. I don't know how to explain this, but I'm going to try. I've been a prosecutor, a judge, a DA, and now a United States attorney for well over 3 decades. Politics is not the lane I'm in right now. And I have a charge and an oath to the Constitution. And my job is to present evidence, and I can do so when I can merely on the suspicion that the law is being violated, or even just because I want assurance that it's not. I'm not in those lanes. And I will not allow myself or my staff to be in those lanes. And that's why we brought crime down in this jurisdiction. We are focused on the law. We're focused on the people of the district. We are not focused on politics. Go ahead.
Judge Mosberg, in his opinion, said that you, quote, promptly complied, unquote, with President Trump's apparent direction to prosecute Powell. Can you just state for the public record, how did you have the idea or, the impetus to start this inquiry?
First of all, he's totally wrong in his assessment of the dates, and that's why we're doing a motion to reconsider, because he got his dates wrong. And as far as I'm concerned, this was something that was of public interest. It was something that the Senate Banking Committee wanted information on, and it is something within my jurisdiction and my charge. But I want to tell you a story. When I was a young prosecutor, I was one of the first people to investigate child abuse as a crime. Everyone thought it was a social problem and not a criminal justice problem. The kids are better off with their parents. There was an organization, and that organization didn't have a very good reputation. And it was one of the societies that was out there trying to prevent cruelty to children. And I set up a relationship where they would bring me cases. And people were outraged that I would deal with this organization. And my answer to them 30, 40 years ago, I'll deal with the devil. I'll take a case from the devil if you can give me information that will lead me to possibly find a crime. It doesn't matter where a case comes from. It doesn't matter. I can have a suspicion. I can read the newspaper. I can just want to make sure he didn't commit a crime. So don't make the judge is wrong on his dates. He is wrong. That's why we're not only appealing, we're making a motion to reconsider. Okay, I want to say one more thing, and I think it's important that you guys hear this from me. There's another way of looking at this, and that is that it's not just the public being fed up with this stuff. It's the fact that what we've got are grand jurors who are supposed to hear this, and they haven't been able to hear any of this because someone has decided that they're not entitled to hear this. Can you take this? Thanks. This process has been arbitrarily undermined by an activist judge. We have a process. We have been asking for information about a matter that has raised questions in many people's minds. Senate banking, the public, the papers, it doesn't matter. So give me the information so I can assess it. Give me the information so the grand jury, comprised of regular Americans, can say, there's nothing here. And I'll accept it the way I accept other cases. Okay? Whatever it is, we'll abide by it. What we don't accept is a judge standing in front of the door of a grand jury blocking our access, a role that has never been envisioned, a role that will now be used by other defense attorneys around the country, who's going to come in with a client and say, oh, my client is being targeted. Don't you dare go in the grand jury. A judge says, yes, the guy's bathed and washed in immunity, and you can't go after him. The process should have been allowed to run its course, and it wasn't. And shame on them. Oh, cut it out. Do you know how many convictions we've got? Cut it out. You're in one lane. We have cleaned up this city. Yeah, historic, really? I'll tell you what's historic. What's historic is that I prosecute everything other than 10% of the cases, where the United States attorney before me didn't prosecute 67% of the cases. That's what's historic. I'm willing to take a not guilty. I'm willing to take a no true bill, because I'll take all the crimes and put them in. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the time we have.
Yeah. So she's pissed, and she's rightly pissed. That's the thing. And I keep saying it. I posted a lot on X. I'll say it again right now. If you don't see that we're in a civil war as well, you're not paying attention. The media, the Democrat Party, some rhinos, we are most assuredly in a civil war. And it's not going to change anytime soon. They're not here to help America. They're here to destroy Trump, and they're here to destroy you and me. The more it comes, I mean, the guy basically gave Jerome Powell immunity. You stole $1 billion, allegedly, and there's no comeuppance. You're not even going to have to face the music. Who are you covering for? Where did that money really go? What politicians or other governments had their hands out? This is bad. This is bad. All right, I got some other kind of breaking news for you. Be right back.
Back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
You know, I've seen a couple of comments in the chat, and that is a question I wonder as well. How in the hell does Bo Asperger keep getting these cases? It's funny. I'm not sure which court he's from, but I would venture to say nobody could name any of the other judges in the court district that he's there, because it's always Bo Asperger. Every single time one of these things happens, it's Bo Asperger. Pretty weird how he keeps getting the cases that they need. And I don't think he's ruled one time in favor of the Trump administration. I think every single time, I don't know, I'll have to look that up, but I haven't seen Bo Asperger rule for Trump in any of the cases. It's absolutely mind-blowing how this one guy just happens to get the adjudication over so many different things. It's like he's the only judge in the country. It's absurd. Absolutely absurd. crazy. I mean, it's supposed to be on a round robin type of thing. Hey, who gets the case today? How does he keep getting the cases? That's something I think we need to look at. All right, so before I close on a Friday, I do have a very, very big story for you. Hold on, SV must have looked it up. I'll get to that. Big story coming up here.
Correspondencia con la política consistente que ha defendido la Revolución Cubana en su historia y dirigidos por el general de ejército como líder histórico de nuestra revolución y por mí y colegiado con las máximas estructuras del partido, del Estado y el gobierno, funcionarios cubanos han sostenido recientemente.
Let me explain this. This is the president of Cuba telling the world, first he's telling, his people there in Cuba that, we're talking to Marco Rubio and President Trump.
Conversaciones con representantes del gobierno de los Estados Unidos. Estas conversaciones han estado orientadas a buscar soluciones por la vía del diálogo a las diferencias bilaterales que tenemos entre las dos naciones. Hay factores internacionales que han facilitado estos intercambios. El propósito de estas conversaciones es, en primer lugar, identificar cuáles son los problemas bilaterales que necesitan una solución a partir de la gravedad que tienen, de la incidencia que tienen. Y por otra parte, encontrar soluciones para estos problemas que se han identificado. Por otra parte, determinar la disposición de ambas partes de concretar acciones en beneficio de los pueblos de ambos países y además de eso identificar áreas de cooperación para enfrentar las amenazas y garantizar la seguridad y la paz de ambas naciones y también en la región donde desarrollamos nuestra vida, que es la región de América Latina y el Caribe. Hay que recordar que no ha sido ni es práctica del liderazgo de la Revolución Cubana responder a las campañas especulativas sobre este tipo de temas. Se trata de un tema que se desarrolla como parte de un proceso muy sensible que se conduce con seriedad y responsabilidad porque afecta los vínculos bilaterales entre las dos naciones y que en correspondencia con la política consistente que siempre ha presentado la revolución.
Okay, so that where it got dark, that's the video that they put out. So the president of Cuba is announcing that he's entered into serious negotiations with the United States. This is absolutely monstrous. I can't even tell you what people here in South Florida are doing. They're losing it. This is, people, the pollsters and everybody else, and I've said to you and I've told them, how can you possibly say we're going to lose the midterms when you don't even know what's going to happen next week? I want you to imagine sometime in the next 90 days that President Trump ends up taking over Cuba in some way, shape, or form. The Hispanic voter is going to quickly run to Trump. There's no way anybody had that in their crystal ball that President Trump and Marco Rubio were going to be able to take over Cuba. It wasn't even a thought. And here we are, it's accelerating quickly. And it's terrifying the left because you probably won't see this on many, you probably won't see it on CNN. You probably won't see it on MS Now, whatever it's called. They can't believe what's happening. And because people watch these news channels and they're not seeing all the stuff that's happening, all the winning. Oh yeah, let me talk about that.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, It's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
What an iconic speech that I was able to clip. Iconic. None of us knew any of this stuff was going to happen. How the hell can you say we're going to lose the midterms and it's February and March, and we have no idea what's about to happen? When we end the war, when we take down Cuba, when we take down Mexico. Oh, that's coming. Let me show you something President Trump posted a little while ago. I found it very interesting. President Trump posted something from Carlo Martin. I don't know who he is, but he says, Claudia, that's in Spanish. And down here it says, Claudia Sheinbaum admits that Donald Trump called her to offer to eradicate the cartels. And then she rejected U.S. intervention. That's right. We said no, proudly no. And they say they're not a narco government. He posted that. He posted that for a reason. Hey, we're going to come in and help you with the cartels. No, that's okay. We're all good. You can't mess with the cartels. Oh, really? He's not going to take no for an answer. She is obviously, what he's posting here, he's basically posting that, and they say they're not a narco government. And then he posted a video by her too, where she says, no, I don't want American help. The cartels are buddies. They're fine. Nope, that's not going to work, Miss Sheinbaum. He's coming for you. And for some reason, the Cubans realized it. This was an additional speech that the president of Cuba, by the way, I use a certain video editing program that has a translation. So if the words aren't exactly what the translation is, I don't speak Spanish. And if you speak Spanish, I know Beth is here. If you speak Spanish and it's not exactly correct, it's not me. I just put it in the computer program and AI spits it out. But here's his second speech.
Cubana. Bajo la dirección del general de ejército como líder histórico de nuestra revolución y la mía, y colegiado con las principales instancias del partido, el gobierno y el Estado cubano, funcionarios cubanos sostuvieron recientemente conversaciones con representantes del gobierno de los Estados Unidos para buscar por la vía del diálogo la posible solución a las diferencias bilaterales que existen entre nuestras dos naciones. Estos intercambios han sido favorecidos por actores internacionales. Y aquí me quiero detener. Siempre que hemos estado en situaciones tensas en las relaciones con los Estados Unidos, aparecen esfuerzos por buscar canales de diálogo, por buscar conversaciones. No es la primera vez que Cuba entra en una conversación de este tipo. Yo creo que la más reciente, el ejemplo más reciente, fue la manera en que el general de ejército condujo las conversaciones con el presidente Obama en una etapa muy reciente, y todos sabemos los resultados que dieron esas conversaciones. Bueno, ahora también algún grupo de actores internacionales favorecieron el desarrollo de esos intercambios. ¿Cuáles son los propósitos que estamos siguiendo con estas conversaciones, con los propósitos que nos hemos planteado? Bueno, en primer lugar, determinar cuáles son los problemas bilaterales que necesitan solución.
Like I said, I don't speak Spanish, so I hope that the AI translation was good. But in any event, they are opening negotiations with the United States, and these are deep negotiations. It's not surface level negotiations. I would expect probably within 60 to 90 days, it turns. They don't have any food. They don't have any money. They can't get any gas. Venezuela can't help them. Iran can't help them. They're effectively being, lack of a better word, choked out. If you are in that country and you can't eat, you can't do anything, you got no electricity, you got no food, you don't have a country. Can we just call it the people that were feeding you with the baby bottle? They're not coming. There's no more baby bottle coming to Cuba. And so, of course, they're going to have to do a deal. And I've got proof of this deal that something is exactly that. Something is happening as we speak. I haven't seen Marco Rubio on TV or anything the last couple of days. He might be in Cuba. I don't know. Maybe one of the people from the Avengers of the Americas, maybe they may be in Cuba, but something is happening in Cuba. Let me go and show you a story here. This story was in CBS News, and it says, Cuba has agreed to release 51 people from prison. Quote, an unexpected move amid pressure from President Trump. That's usually like the first thing. Show me you're serious. Show me that you really want to have, a conversation. What do you want? I want you to release all the prisoners. Release them, or we're not going to even begin to have a conversation. So they released 51 people. From CBS, Cuban's government said Thursday night it will release 51 people from the island's prisons in an unexpected move that comes as the Trump administration puts immense pressure on the country. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that the release will take place in the coming days. It cast the release as an, quote, not my words, act of goodwill, stemming from the country's close relationship with the Vatican, which has helped broker prisoner release deals and U.S.-Cuba normalization talks in the past. So in a bit of goodwill, they're going to release these prisoners, and somehow Marco Rubio got the Pope involved, got the Vatican involved, and say, hey, man, we can't help you. I can't even use like the Catholic charities. You got nothing. There's nothing I can do at this point to even feed you or anything else. You gotta let these people go. All right, so we'll let them go. That's the start. That's the start, and how you know right now something's happening. Something is definitely happening. The government did not identify. Whoa. Too fast. Did not identify who it would release, except to say that all have served significant part of this sentence and have maintained good conduct in prison. It wasn't immediately known if any of the people the government plans to release are political prisoners. The nonprofit Prisoners Defenders has said there were 1,200 plus political prisoners in Cuba. So, if there's 1,200 political prisoners in Cuba and they've offered 51, they're offering the olive branch to say, okay, let's begin talking turkey. We need food. Show me. Here's 51. Okay, we'll get there. The Cuban government has said that it granted pardons to 9,000 inmates since 2010. Another 10,000 sentenced to imprisonment were also released. The announcement was made just hours before Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel is scheduled to speak early Friday morning at another rare meeting with the press to address national and international issues. That's why you saw two different videos. One was yesterday, today was the international press. By the way, international press, we're a nation, we're international. Did CNN or anybody cover it? Don't know. The Trump administration has sought to block oil shipments to Cuba in recent months in a bid to pressure the island's government. Fuel supplies in Cuba have run low, worsening the country's energy crisis. They got no electricity. The Trump-appointed top federal prosecutor in Miami is also weighing possible criminal charges against Cuban government officials. That's the big one. Because if we roll in the troops or we do something down in Cuba, they're already seeking criminal charges against the leadership in Miami. So, ergo, they're basically telling them, we're going to Maduro you. You put that together? Hey, you're only 90 miles away and you got nothing. You got no army, you got no food, you got no electricity, and my boys over here are putting together charges for you in Miami. It won't be hard for us to come down with the discombobulator and pick y'all up. and put you in a jail in Miami. No, you don't get New York and Washington. You get to go to jail in Miami. Love this chess match. President Trump and members of his administration have suggested the island's long-standing regime, which has ruled Cuba since Fidel Castro's rise to power in 1959, 60 years, could fall. Last week, the president said the U.S. is talking to the Cuban government, but added we could very, very well up having a friendly takeover of Cuba. I swear it sounds like a Godfather movie. You know, if you decide to come over here and do this, we could talk about some things. I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. You're gonna get Maduro's. If we get Maduro, the rest of these people are gonna poop their pants because we're gonna drop the discombobulator, and then we're gonna drag you people out while you're pooping your pants and stick you in a jail in Miami. How you like that? All right, let's talk. And nobody wants to talk about it. Okay. In January of 2025, Cuba released prominent dissident Jose Daniel Ferrer as a part of the government decision to gradually free more than 500 prisoners following talks with the Vatican. Ferrer left Cuba last October and is now in the United States. He was one of the several prisoners released in early 2025 as part of the talks with the Vatican. The releases began a day after then President Joe Biden's administration announced his intent to lift the U.S. designation of Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. I can recall a certain time ago seeing Melania in a nice white veil over her head where President Trump went to the Vatican. You guys can go ahead and Google and say, when did President Trump visit the Vatican? What was he doing when he went to go see the Pope and the papal administration in the Vatican? You need to talk to a bunch of these rogue Catholics down in Cuba and get them to understand what's about to happen. But nobody wanted to talk about it then. Nobody wants to talk about it now because communism sucks. Mondami, AOC, PayPal, the bald one, all of those socialists. Can you imagine if one of their prime jewels of communism falls to Trump? What kind of a day will it be for the squad when they have to look 90 miles south of the United States and go, communism sucks? And you see people running in the street and they're happy and they're eating and they've got their, now burritos is Mexico, their beans and rice and they've got some chicken and all of a sudden, and I saw somebody in the chat, and I love what they said, here comes Hawaii right here. Cuba was a beautiful place. We're not talking about a country that was a third world country. It's not Haiti. It is a beautiful country, beautiful architecture, beautiful people. It will be almost immediately prosperous. How do I know that? Because I could drive right down the road and probably show you tens of thousands of people who can't wait to go back and forth immediately. Go to their own neighborhoods. Oh, we're going to open a shop here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And bring the tourists. Beautiful beach, clean it up a little bit, put a spit shine on Havana, and it's open for business. What a better middle finger to socialism and communism than to see an icon of communism fall right before their very eyes. While Mondami's up in New York trying to put together some socialist commie utopia, while the mayor in Seattle is doing exactly the same thing, they're going to see all over the news people jumping up and screaming and having a party and going down and having a Cuba Libre and experiencing, capitalism. When the world sees these people in Cuba freed and bathing in capitalism, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think how it's going to shift the voting population in America who have been beat over the head with the Bernie Sanders of the world. When you can look right there, because one of the things that most of us have never seen is how bad Cuba actually looks because nobody shows it. Can you imagine when the news crews hit Cuba? When the news crews can go there and they're not run or taken to a specific place because the federal rallies only want you to see this, and they're like, this place looks like crap. These people don't have any food. They don't even have water. They can't wash their clothes. There's no Target. And there's no Starbucks. And there's no McDonald's. And then quickly they see people just so ecstatically happy that they can buy bread in a store. What do you think that does to Bernie? What do you think that does to AOC and the rest of them? How come these people are just licking up, salivating capitalism while you guys are up there trying to steal money from people? It spells the end, another brick in a wall end of the Democrat Party. It will be a visually contrasting socialism. We're going to do this with, like Cuba. And the people in Cuba going, we're living large. And it won't take that long. It won't take that long at all. I'm telling you right now, if they come to an agreement in April, by September, there will be trucks and backhoes and cranes and all kinds of things showing the revamping of Cuba like that going into the midterms. It completely destroys everything that they've been trying to say and trying to do. That, I think, ends it for them in the midterms. So that's all I got for you. I wanted you guys to see that before you went. I will be doing a show tomorrow. Fridays are only one show because I spend the evening with Robin. But let me see what some of you guys are saying. Don Road Doctrine, free Cuba. Exactly. Full steam. Warp speed fixing America in the Western Hemisphere strategy. Masterpiece moving forward. Yeah, you know what? You're so right. Cuban vacation for Americans with birth certificates for free. You know, most of the people in America, when you go on vacation, you may travel within America, but it's probably, I don't know if it's closer than the Bahamas, but it's so close. It's so close, and we'll be able to go down there and go back and forth. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Immediate prosperity. Thank you for everything today. Great show. Thank you. I'm sorry that there was, well, not sorry. I couldn't help. There's so much news happening. In fact, we're probably going to get some video afterwards. President Trump was supposed to sign an executive order. I haven't seen them release any footage. Once again, why would America ever allow Cuba to be 90 miles from Florida and allow Cuba to be a terrorist hub of the CCP? It should have been done decades ago. You're absolutely right. Why is that island sitting right there against us? What? No adversaries there. I hate what Barry shows, Ed. Oh, you're right. Oh, my goodness. I didn't even think of this. Oh, my goodness. A Major League Baseball expansion team. If you guys don't know, there are so many Cubans who are awesome at playing baseball but never had anywhere to go. Remember, I'm going to date myself here, back in the Olympic days with Muhammad Ali, there was an amazing fighter from Cuba. Amazing. You can look him up. I believe his name was Teofilo Stevenson. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Probably not. Teofilo Stevenson. And he was Muhammad Ali caliber, but he couldn't go fight. I mean, he fought in the Olympics and stuff when they let Cuba in, but he couldn't be a prime boxer. He missed out. Baseball players, boxers, soccer. Crazy. Yeah. Oh my God. So true. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. Somebody said, put a duck, it's funny. I put a Dunkin' Donuts in Cuba. I don't know, but Cuban coffee, I don't know, but if anybody would ever go in a Dunkin' Donuts. Oh, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. They're probably dancing in the streets or planning for a party in Florida. Here's what I'm going to do. When it gets announced, I'm going to go down into Little Havana in Miami and I'll record. Well, I won't have to be the only one. It would have to be on the news. The streets would be filled with celebration. Absolutely filled with celebration. What was his? Oh, somebody found it. Okay. It was Theophilo Stevenson. He was great. The guy was fantastic. Had a concrete cinder block for a punch, and he couldn't do anything. He got wasted. He would be a multi-millionaire if he was still alive at this point, if he was able to go and box in for money. Crazy. Cuban cigars. Like, I don't, you guys would have to tell me. I don't smoke. And so I don't know what the big thing is about Cuban cigars, but obviously people love them and loving Cuban cigars. The Copacabana. It's going to be crazy. I remember some of that, Barry. Yeah. I mean, the people down in Miami would just be, it would be crazy, crazy, crazy. All right. Yeah. President Trump said Cuba next. He already knew. He already dropped the breadcrumbs. Yeah, we're going to have something in Cuba. I think it's going to be a friendly takeover. Why wouldn't it be? I know there's probably a lot of Cubans who would hate the fact that the president would get away with what they've done. But I don't know how much this new president has done. It was the Castros who did all the bad stuff, in how they basically imprisoned their people. And if you've never seen what happened, there's movies. I know Scarface out there, but people talk about the boat lift, and people were trying to put bathtubs in the water and wooden rafts and just try to get out. If communism is so great, why do you got to put a wall around your country? If communism and socialism work so well, why do you got to shoot people if they try to leave? It's insane. What's this guy? Somebody says, I'm out. You people make me sick. I don't know what's wrong with this guy. Oh, crazy. Where is this, SV? 2,500 Marines, amphibious assault ships, attack helicopters, artillery, their own air support that doesn't need a runway. Okay. We'll send those. Why was that guy? Why are we making somebody sick? Or is that a troll? That didn't make any sense. Being happy for the Cubans? No, that ain't making me sick. It's making it would only make commies sick if they can't get their way. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How can you not be happy if Cuba is taken? That doesn't make any sense. What is wrong with people? What is seriously wrong with people saying, why would you be against it? I don't get it. Why would anybody be against people having a better life? Man, sometimes I think people need to go or read and see how people are living before they understand what they're going to be, what they'll have available to them. All right, let me do super chats. That one's stunning. That was stunning. Maybe I read it wrong. Okay. Grove Guy, thanks, Barry, for keeping this Canadian informed. Thank you for watching. Is that Chiosop? Chiosop. I drive diesel trucks and prices are up about 80 cents, but we shop around and can find diesel about 50 cents higher, short-term pain worth it. Juan Perez, Barry, I'm watching the aluminum foil grind. Chiosop, don't forget to use your gas rewards, more savings. Robert, why do the Democrats still exist? That's a good question, because they've convinced so many people. They've done so much to make people think that, everything Trump does is bad. They don't care. What's this? Robert. Why? That's what I just read. Chiosop, the grand wizard behind the curtain running Iran. the Grand Wizard cutout. Demon of Cybertron. Scott Jennings will be the only one with a job after he's talking about the takeover by Ellison. I could buy that. Pekovsky, thank you twice there. Buddy Sanders, the day the school got hit, Iranians living there put out that IRGC rocket malfunction. Been following this closely for personal reasons. Yeah, that's what the original story was, and somehow it morphed into the Americans blew them up. Crazy. Chiosop, some judges need to go deep sea fishing. Yeah, I hear you. Buddy, follow the money. Exactly. He's getting paid, Bo Asperger. The midterms, Tinley says the midterms, we will have Iranian Americans, Cuban Americans, Venezuelan Americans, and others voting for us in drove. That's the finishing move. Hopefully they drop the hyphen now. Chiosop, don't know how it is in other courts, but in criminal court, once you're assigned a judge, he owns you. Every time you get in trouble, you go before him. I don't think that's with this stuff, though. John, if you're still here, I told you I need your mailing address, please, John. I want to see if the Cuban leaders have suits. Trump won't let them in the White House. And Brian, I feel President Trump is finishing what JFK started. This is wonderful. The president of Cuba doesn't want to get discombobulated. I fully agree. Discombobulation can't feel all that well. I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel really good. Remember, if you guys don't remember, they said Maduro had to change clothes like 3 times from Venezuela to New York. So that's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. And I just want to check before I sign off if they've released anything about President Trump. There was 2 things that were supposed to happen. He was supposed to be signing an executive order about something, and then also he was meeting with the championship rodeo team. And I don't see either of them in the queue here, so I guess they didn't do a video. But in any event, tomorrow he has another big day. He'll be heading down here to Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, and he's got a couple of different events scheduled, so we'll go ahead and cover that as well. Let me just check the time while you guys are here. Wait a second. What time is that tomorrow? Mar-a-Lago. Hold on 1 second. So I can pull up his schedule. All right. So tomorrow, just to give you an idea what's going on tomorrow. Saturday, down here in Palm Beach. At 7:30, 7:30 tomorrow night, President Trump participates in a MAGA Inc. roundtable dinner. So there's going to be a dinner at Mar-a-Lago, which they will probably turn the cameras on for, and we'll get to see that as well. So 7:30 tomorrow, which means I'll probably go live sometime around 6:30. So we have, because I got a whole bunch of content for you. I've decided, by the way, hope you enjoy. What I've begun doing is just assembling a lot of content. And so if I get to, 2.5, 3 hours, and I'm like, okay, we can't be here for another hour and a half, I just wait until tomorrow, and then we'll be able to run it and just keep going. So in any event, I will see you guys tomorrow. I will post what time we'll be doing it. I'm sure we'll have a bunch of news tomorrow as well. Thanks for tuning in.